Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Issei. Today we are gonna see what if Issei become a hero of Gremory movie. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Raynare threw her holy spear at Issei. It was flying towards him at a terrifying speed, ready to pierce through him. She had planned to end his life. And Riaz had planned to reincarnate him into her peerage, but not a single thing ever goes as planned. As the spear flew towards the poor boy, time seemed to slow down, almost stop. The boy saw his life flashing before him. He was aware of it. This was the end for him. Maybe this was for the best, he thought. All he could do properly is be a pervert. He was about to accept his demise when the powerful voice screamed through his mind. You dare give up? What a useless human you are. You're not worth the air you breathe. Fine, I'll handle this, you little worm. And with that, a golden light covered his entire body. The spear, made out of holy energy, would crumble as it made contact with the light before dissolving into nothingness. What happened? She asked, shock covering her features. She wasn't sure what was happening before her. How could her holy spear just break apart like that? The golden light died down, and a different person was now standing in front of her. He didn't look anything like Issei if his height and build was anything to go by, but at the same time, Raynare could tell that he was absolutely and without a doubt Issei. Even with his blonde hair and red eyes. He was most definitely Issei in some way. Then the male spoke. His voice holding authority far beyond anything she had ever experienced. You're the little fallen that wishes to harm my host. The male asked, clearly dissatisfied with the outcome. Raynare flinched. Just what was she feeling? The person in front of her felt human, but also at the same time godly. The aura covering his body was majestic. The power it gave out was outrageous. She could barely stand in front of this being. She couldn't afford to look weak. She was a fallen angel and she was going to see to it that she ends Issei's life, no matter what the cost. Every single nerve in her body was screaming at her to run as far away as she can. The power his aura itself was giving out was incredible. But she didn't listen to her own instincts. Her pride was too great for that. She put on a wicked smirk as she projected another holy spear in her hands. If that one didn't hit, then this one surely will. She then threw the spear at the male much faster than the previous throw. She had hoped that it was just a fluke. That by some random coincidence the first spear faded away instead of piercing through the male's body. But she was going to find out just how wrong she was. The male's red eyes sharpened as he watched the spear fly at him. A smirk of his own overshadowed his features as he placed his hand forward, his index finger pointing towards the spear. Worm. You dare attack me? The spear made contact with his index finger, but as it did the spear shattered like glass. Is this the best you can do? The male glared at her dangerously. He thought this holy spear of hers would be more powerful, but this was a joke. Raynare could only watch him with her jaw open. Her face full of disbelief. He not only stopped her spear one time, the second time he did it without any effort on his part. Even her superiors wouldn't be able to do what he just did. Destroying her holy spear with a single finger. This was unheard of. She now realized how big of a mistake she had made. Turning around, she made a run for it, her wings lifting her off the ground, but before she could lift off more than a few feet, a hand grabbed her leg, pulling her right back down. She turned around, a face of horror overtaking her features. The male that was a few meters away from her was next to her in mere moments. What the fuck? The male chuckled, somewhat amused. So, the mongrel realized how far I outmatched it and tried to make a run for it. He bursted into a full-on laughter. His eyes nearly tearing up as he did. Well, mongrel, the laughter stopped. You can't just give me a gift without me giving you one back in return. What sort of king would I be if I didn't reward my loyal subjects? His hand balled into a fist as he swinged his arm forward, his fist connected with her stomach before she could even see what was happening. Raynare could feel it coming, but could do nothing to stop it. She couldn't react in time, and she realized that even if she could, her arms would break apart from the sheer power of his fist. Please stop. Then it happened, the fist collided with her stomach, and her vision just went blank. She had lost consciousness before the fist even fully connected with her stomach, and maybe this was for the best. Otherwise she would be in loads of pain. The force of his fist created a shockwave that was powerful enough to tear the branches off the trees around them. Her body was lifted off the ground, the force of the fist sending her flying through the fountain and into multiple trees before finally stopping, leaving a trail of destruction along the way. The male would only stare at her half-dead body, somewhat amused that he could do this much damage to her with only a fraction of his power. Well, this was most certainly a waste of my time. He crossed his arms while thinking. Guess I might as well let that weakling back out. Golden light would cover his body once more, shifting his appearance back to that of a brown-haired boy. Issei fell down on all fours, still experiencing the near-death sensation. He was sure that he was about to die, however he didn't feel any pain. He'd then look in front of him, his eyes widening at what he saw. There, in front of him was a woman with gashes and cuts all over her body, her clothes torn off, revealing her naked body. He remembered everything up to the moment she shot her spear at him. But what happened after that? His mind was foggy. Nothing made sense at all. How was he still alive? Why was he standing in front of the beaten woman? Had he done it? Was he capable of something like this? Of hurting a woman? He couldn't help but to turn around. He was going to puke if kept looking at her. The blood that was coming out of her mouth was making him feel uneasy. Then he remembered something. Right before he blacked out he heard a voice. A voice of a man. That must be it. Issei nodded. That man must have been the one who did this to her. Issei would look around, trying to spot the man but to no avail. Ding, ding. Issei heard a voice in his head. You've guessed it correctly, my useless host. Issei looked round again, but there was nobody there. Wow, I must be going insane. The voice in his head continued. Insane? Hardly. Issei was sure of it now. He was going crazy. Oh God, why have you cursed me with such bad luck? First my girlfriend tries to kill me, and now I'm going insane. The voice in his head got louder, more dominant. Listen, you little mongrel. I don't know what you think is going on, but I saved your sorry ass. Be grateful that I didn't let you die like the little worm you are. Issei jumped back, clearly not expecting the voice in his head to be so loud. Was he really not insane? Hey, ugh. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? If the voice could, it would fassip him. Anger was clearly now mixed with its tone as it spoke. I told you, you're not going insane, you useless trash. Issei noticed the voice getting angrier and angrier. He didn't want to upset it anymore because he felt that if he did, not even the gods could save him anymore. So who or what are you? The voice found his question rather amusing if the laughter was anything to go by. Mongrel. You're not only a useless human, but you're also a wimp. How did I, the most powerful one, get trapped in such a useless host? Issei couldn't take it anymore. He kept being called useless over and over again. A tick mark appeared on his forehead as he yelled out. Well, I'm sorry for not being as awesome as you, your majesty. Please, let me do your fucking bidding. The voice was quiet for a moment and this made Issei fear for his life. He wasn't sure how or why the voice scared him so much, but there was just something about it that felt transcendent. Then the voice finally spoke. Oh. Maybe the host this time has some backbone after all. The voice continued confidently. Boy. You asked for my name, did you not? Well, listen and listen closely because I'll only say this once. My name is Gilgamesh and I'm the king of all heroes. I am the first and the true king of this world. Issei couldn't help but to think. Gilgamesh. He has heard of that name before. So let me tell you another interesting factor, boy. You're the holder of something truly special. The people of this world refer to it as sacred gear. Yours has a demigod sealed inside of it. And guess who that demigod is? Issei wasn't sure of it, so he just went with the most obvious answer. You? Gilgamesh laughed harder than he ever could. That's right. What happened right now is a clear demonstration of the sacred gear's powers. It allowed me to materialize myself inside of your body and use it to deal with that pesky fallen. I'm not sure how many of my powers you possess right now, but soon you'll gain unimaginable strength that will let you rival even the strongest beings in this world. And if you're too incompetent to deal with some of the beings you face, then I'll come out and show them a thing or two. I wouldn't be exaggerating when I say that I can easily fight two of the strongest gods in the universe with two hands tied behind my back. Scene break. Somewhere in the dimensional gap. The great red dragon would sneeze. Someone is talking about me. Scene break. Listen closely, you shouldn't reveal the fact that you have this gear to anybody because of its significance. This sacred gear was only used one time in all of history by someone I deemed worthy, and now I put my trust in you, a little maggot. Honestly, I have no idea what went through my mind when I chose you as my host, but let me make one thing clear to you. Don't tell anybody about your sacred gear. Just one little slip up and you could start another great war. People fear me and wouldn't rest until I'm eradicated from this planet. It's not as if I couldn't fight the whole world head on, but what would be the point of killing every single person? I would have no more fun. And before you ask, yes, I'm that powerful. Issei was somewhat confused. He didn't know what he meant by another war. Was he perhaps referring to the world wars? And what did he mean by sacred gears? He's never heard of this term. He was going to have to search it up on the internet. Okay, what's the name of this sacred gear that I possess? Gilgamesh would reply. World Breaker. Just as the name states, it has the power to destroy worlds. Issei's jaw dropped down, his head started hurting. There was no way he was going to sleep this off. The voice in his head just told him he had enough power to destroy the whole world. Oh God. Gilgamesh remained silent for a few moments, giving the boy time to adjust to the situation. Although, I doubt you'd ever have the power to destroy worlds without me controlling your body. There's only one thing in the Gate of Babylon that's powerful enough to do something like that, and I'm the only person that can use it. Now, I wonder what are we going to do with this one? Issei shifted his view to Raynare's body, her wounds gradually starting to heal. I have the perfect idea. His eyes were like glowing stars, and they obviously had perverted intentions. Gilgamesh could only laugh before crossing his arms in Issei's mindscape. This is going to be an interesting journey. Scene break. Rhea sat down on her chair, staring back at Akeno. She wasn't pleased with the outcome. He didn't summon us, which means he's dead. The sun slowly made its way up. It was early in the morning, and the golden rays of light were already making their way through the window of our hero's home. He was slowly opening his eyes, tired from yesterday's events. Actually, the word tired would be an understatement. He was utterly exhausted. Why was he so tired? Well, first of all, just the materialization of Gilgamesh took so much of his strength that he could barely stand that night. He was surprised that he didn't pass out right on the spot. And then, well. Flashback. Hey Gilgamesh, I think that I can't just bring her home for my parents to see her, especially with those wings. Can I? Issei asked, knowing the answer already. You will refer to me as the king of heroes until you get to know me better, peasant. Also, no you can't. Why not just kill her while you have the chance? Grab that stick next to you and hit her on the head as hard as you can. Or even better, I can give you one of my swords which you can use to slice her up. She did try to kill you after all. Gilgamesh answered, his voice cruel and ruthless. No way. Issei was at a loss of words. Gilgamesh talked about killing as if it was nothing. Gilg, I mean king of heroes, sir. How can I bring her home then? That's better. Now there are two ways to do it. Either rip those wings out of her back, or you can spend the night somewhere else. Gilgamesh gave Issei a hint. Now it all depended on him to figure out what he meant by that. Issei would release his next words in the most sarcastic way possible. Oh, and where is that? I don't suppose you can materialize a castle right in front of me that nobody other than me can see. Gilgamesh smirked in Issei's mindscape. Well, I could. He replied uncaringly. Ahaha. Issei laughed as loudly as he could. This wasn't one of those laughs that you did when you thought something was funny, quite on the contrary, this was the type of laugh that you did when something impossible just happened in front of you and you can't really believe it. He was completely dumbfounded by what he had just heard. Kid, remember when I told you that you're not insane? Well, let's just say that I could be wrong. Gilgamesh was debating whether to ignore his host at the moment or not. He didn't want to talk to a person that's insane or an idiot, and seeing as Issei was both, well, you could see where he's coming from. Anybody would react that way when you say that you're able to create an invisible castle. Like, come on. An invisible fucking castle. I was being fucking sarcastic. How is that even possible? Issei was slightly pissed off at how Gilgamesh interpreted his reaction. Oh? It's nothing special. Gilgamesh answered. Although I don't know how well your body will handle it. You might just pass out or even die. But then again, if you do, then I might find myself a better host. Wait. Issei yelled, trying to stop Gilgamesh from using the spell. But it was already too late. Gilgamesh wasn't going to listen to the kid, no. He was going to do whatever he pleased. In front of Issei was a sphere made entirely out of gold. Issei couldn't tell where it came from. 1 second it wasn't there and the next second it just appeared. It started to float before stopping inches away from Issei's head. Touch it. Gilgamesh didn't ask the boy to do it. This was a command. One that he wasn't going to take no for an answer. Issei, being the idiot that he is, just sighed and did as he was told, extending his hand forward before placing it onto the floating sphere, and then it started. Excruciating pain was all that Issei felt, but Issei's body didn't move, or rather it couldn't move. His hand was stuck on the sphere while his body completely frozen. This didn't stop Issei from screaming at the top of his lungs. This was pain like no other. It felt like his entire body was being crushed under the entire castle's weight, and the only thing the boy could do was hold on. He almost lost his consciousness, but then a golden energy started to flow out of his body, making the pain almost non-existent. Not bad, you didn't lose consciousness for 10 seconds. I might have found myself a decent host. Don't worry though, little mongrel, I'll use my own energy to supply it, seeing as you're not able to handle it. Giving Issei a bit of his power was all that was needed. The sphere filled up with energy in mere moments, causing it to explode and reveal what appeared to be a giant door. Once you step through here, there's no going out till morning. The moment you open the door you have 6 seconds to go through before it closes and seals shut till 7:06 am. Now you might be asking yourself why 7:06 am, so I'll give you a tip. It's a demon item. The moment the word demon was mentioned, Issei paled. He was going into a castle that was once owned by a demon. He was beyond scared. So scared that he barely noticed his lack of energy. The sphere took a lot out of him, a lot more than Issei would want to give. Hell, he couldn't even stand up anymore. Gilgamesh noticed this and gave him a little more of his energy, allowing Issei to move. He was going to go towards the door but then turned around, staring at the fallen angel. He was going to get his revenge on her after she tried to kill him. Walking closer to her, he grabbed her and carried her inside of the castle, closing the door behind him. Flashback. Those were the two reasons why he woke up feeling like shit. His entire body was in pain, and who could blame him after the amount of work Gilgamesh put him through. I bet that bastard is a sadistic fuck. He thought, not saying it out loud, but that didn't stop Gilgamesh from hearing it. Now that he thought about it, he was surprised to still be alive after all of that. The pain that he felt from that sphere was enough to give him a million heart attacks, and yet he didn't get any. Issei then felt the air chilling around him, making him automatically shift his view towards the fallen angel that was of course right next to him in bed. She was glaring daggers at him while he was frozen in place. He hadn't really thought this out too well. What would he do when she woke up and found herself naked with him in bed? Or better yet, since when did he have the balls to be naked with a beautiful woman in bed? Gilgamesh found this rather amusing, laughing like a maniac. You had balls ever since you were born. 2 of them hopefully. Issei was at a loss of words, so the fallen angel spoke first. You stupid human. What have you done to me? Where are all my clothes? Gilgamesh continued laughing, finding Issei's misfortune to be amusing. Issei then finally spoke, trying to calm her down. First of all, what's so different between a human and whatever you are? Second, I only slept with you and maybe grabbed your breasts 1 or 2 times, and third, well, I don't know what happened to your clothes. Raynare was furious. She had never been so humiliated in her life, and even by a lowly human such as this one. She couldn't clearly remember what happened between them yesterday. Maybe he drugged her, which made her reveal her true form to him. Anyway, this human had to die, now. His sacred gear was too dangerous, whatever it was. She formed a spear in her hand ready to strike when a hand grabbed her arm, stopping her from doing anything foolish. The hand that grabbed her was Issei's, but instead of his warm brown eyes, she was met with cold crimson red eyes, staring at her as if she was the insignificant one. His voice was like a mix between his own and Gilgamesh's. Don't try anything stupid, you worm, or I will gut you where you stand. His voice was cold and powerful, leaving no room for denial. Raynare froze in place. This voice, this power. She remembered everything that happened yesterday. Oh my god. She whimpered, barely keeping herself intact. She knew that going against this boy, no, this man, was a no-go. She would be obliterated in a moment. The spear in her hand faded away. Issei's eyes changed back to their regular colors, his voice now being normal and a bit unconfident. Could you please stop trying to kill me? I haven't really done anything to you. She glared at him, crossing her arms as she did. She was mad. Mad that she wasn't gifted with a sacred gear as this boy, mad that he could easily overpower her, mad that he could kill her with a single flick of his fingers. Hey, don't be like that. We just got off on the wrong foot, that's all. I'm sure that we could be really good friends if you give me a chance. He didn't get to finish his words as Raynare tackled him, sitting down on his stomach while grabbing both of his arms, pinning him down on the bed. Issei tried to push her off, but to no avail. She was a lot more powerful than he was in terms of raw strength. Hell, she was pushing his arms so deep into the mattress that the bed might break. He also noticed that all of the wounds from last night healed. Then Raynare finally spoke. You asked what I am, right? A black feather fell onto his face from one of her wings. I'm a fallen angel. An angel that was banished from heaven for succumbing to lust. Oh, well, isn't that the saddest thing you've ever heard? I should add this to my book. Gilgamesh took his book out, inside of Issei's mindscape, writing what the fallen angel had said moments before. If you looked closely on the cover of the book, you could see the title. The book was called The Life of Peasants. And Raynare continued. I'm really attracted to strong men. Issei could only stare at her in disbelief. She first wanted to kill him, and now she was attracted to him. What's wrong with this world? So Raynare watched him closely before leaning further down and whispering into his ear, her voice soft, and he swears he could hear a purr coming out of her lips. Call him out. I want him. The only thing Issei could do was drop his jaw at this development. God, why have you cursed me with this bad luck? Today was easily the most annoying day in Issei's whole life. He found out Raynare wasn't attracted to him, but rather to his inner gear, aka the person who beat her to a bloody pulp. Why would anybody be attracted to that egoistic fuck? Issei thought to himself, quietly enough for Gilgamesh not to hear him. Or so he thought. He could feel a glare like no other pierce his very soul, making chills go down his spine. After a lot of convincing on his part, Raynare gave up on trying to bring Gilgamesh out, only to pout at Issei. It's not as if she didn't like Issei. She really did adore him, but he most certainly couldn't compare to the other man. She got off Issei's stomach, but not before Issei managed to give her a soft kiss on the cheek, making her blush while at the same time cursing his human existence. Then as both of them got out of the castle, the door just disappeared, leaving them back in the park where all the fighting had happened. But something was wrong here. The entire park was in pieces last night and now it looked brand new. Neither of the two thought anything of it, each going their separate directions. But of course before Raynare could go anywhere naked, Issei offered her a jacket which she gladly accepted to cover herself with. Issei was worried at first that Raynare would tell the other fallen angels about him and his gear, while Gilgamesh assured the mongrel that something like that won't be the case. Apparently she'll forget every single memory about them within moments of leaving this area. Then as Issei got back home, a new surprise awaited him. One that brought a whole new meaning to the word headache. His parents ran to him, crying. Apparently some police officer showed up and told them how their son died and that his body has yet to be found. First his parents thought of it as some sort of sick joke, but when they didn't hear from Issei that night, since he never got home, well, let's just say things started to get really out of hand. They called everybody they could, but nobody had seen Issei. They were starting to lose hope, but then as they heard the click on the door, their eyes widened as they stared at their son, faces full of tears. Issei had little time to get ready for school, so he shoved his parents aside, giving them each a hug before going into his room and changing his clothes. He wanted to check if his hair was messy in the mirror, but what he saw horrified him. He didn't see himself standing in front of the mirror, rather he saw an image of a blonde-haired man with red eyes glaring at him dangerously. It took him a few good moments to get himself back together before glaring back at equal intensity. "You're the king of heroes or Gilgamesh, I presume?" Gilgamesh nodded his head. "Sounds about right, mongrel." Issei couldn't help but to fassip him. He was being as respectful to this man as he possibly could. After all, he did save his life not once, but twice. However, even his patience has a limit. "Listen, you stuck-up prick, don't make me come over to that side and punch yo." He stopped mid-sentence, feeling a cold object leaning onto the back of his neck. The edge of the object itself was sharp, and if enough force was put into it, then his head would be flying cleanly off. Gilgamesh would only smirk, revealing his dangerously sharp teeth through the edges of his lips. "You were saying?" Issei lost all the courage he had up to that point. It was either because of that devilish smirk or the metallic object that was slowly cutting into his skin, but Issei felt as if he needed to beg to survive, and that's what he did. "Please, almighty king. Don't do this to your loyal follower." Gilgamesh would only shift his view towards the weapon, making it disappear within an instant. "I'm teaching you a valuable lesson here. Don't talk back to someone who's stronger than you or it'll come back to bite you. The only reason why you're still alive is because I allow you to breathe. I could have killed you a long time ago, even while you were still a baby. I was watching you grow up, and while I do admit that you're a pervert with no real hobbies or any special skills, there are a few things that you did in your life that surprised even me. So I didn't allow you to die just yet because I want to see more surprises from you. Don't make me regret my decision." Issei didn't know whether to feel upset or happy. The apparent king of the world praised him. But he didn't have the time to figure it out right now. There were more pressing matters to deal with. "So, I've got to ask you something. The park, it was ruined yesterday. The fountain was destroyed, the trees were in shambles, but today everything was fixed as if nothing happened. And then there was the police officer that my parents spoke of. Don't you think that this death might have been planned by someone other than the fallen angel?" Gilgamesh laughed at the boy hysterically. His laughter was so loud that it made the entire room tremble as if there was an earthquake. "Downstairs." Issei's mother sighed. "Honey, do you think he's okay?" Issei's father was going to reply, but was stopped as the room started to tremble. "What this? An earthquake?" "Downstairs." The laughter finally died down, allowing Issei to stand back up and let go of his ears. Then Gilgamesh finally spoke. "You're smarter than I've given you credit for. Yes, that death was all planned out, probably by some very influential devil that was interested in you. And no, it wasn't for your looks. They could tell you have a sacred gear inside of you, and lucky for us, they don't know which one it is, so we're safe for now." "What? Devils are also real?" But Issei was confused. "Why did this devil want to kill me?" Gilgamesh pointed towards the pants Issei had just changed out of. "Put your hand into one of the pockets. There you will find a piece of paper with a weird symbol on it. That symbol would have allowed the devil to teleport to you once you were on death's door, so long as your wish was strong enough. And then the devil would have probably put one of those little mongrel chess pieces of theirs into you and reincarnated you into a devil, forcibly making you a part of their peerage. But that would have never worked, seeing as I'm the one that you have as your sacred gear." This was too much information for Issei to take in at once. Not because of the information itself, but the fact that it denies all the rules and logic that he had ever known. Devils were fictional characters that were always portrayed as the bad guys. God knows what sort of terrible acts he'd be forced to do once he became a devil. Thank God for Gilgamesh stopping it. He will be forever grateful to his savior. Or at least until he sees what sort of devils they are and their assets. Okay, Issei leaned his index finger onto his forehead, closing his eyes, thinking about where the devils could possibly be located. A mongrel. Gilgamesh gave him a questioning look, asking himself if the boy in front of him was trying to imitate an idiot or just was an idiot. Not now, Gilgamesh, I'm trying to figure out the place of where the devils could be located. Issei unknowingly answered Gilgamesh's question. You little idiot, isn't it obvious? They're at your SCH. Gilgamesh was cut off by Issei. They're located at my school. Issei exclaimed, proud of himself for figuring that out. He hadn't noticed Gilgamesh talking, nor did he notice that he was about to answer the boy's question. I'm going to kill you one day. Gilgamesh's face was full of anger. He didn't appreciate being cut off like that, especially when he was going to look like the smarter one if he answered Issei's question before he himself could think of the answer. But at least he was sure of one thing. His host did indeed have a functional brain. Issei ignored that last sentence, acting as if he hadn't heard it. Honestly, he was scared beyond reason. The most powerful being he had ever met told him that he'll end him one day. What's scarier than that? Issei was about to head for school, but was stopped by a sudden flash of energy in front of him. Standing in front of him now was the king. Issei was on his way to school, but he couldn't help but to feel that he was forgetting something. Something very important. He blocked the outside world as he started to think, not realizing that he had already arrived in front of the school gates. He was now at Kuo Academy. The previously all-girls private school that recently turned co-ed. And as he had arrived, all of the students stared at him, looking at him as if they've seen a ghost. Oh right. He finally remembered what made him feel so uneasy. Every single person in school probably heard the fake news already. The news of him being dead. Issei could only facepalm at this. Great. Pointing his middle finger towards the sky, he yelled. If there's any sort of god up there laughing at my misfortune, then fuck you. He yelled, loud enough for the whole school to hear. Gilgamesh would only snicker. Well, I won't take that as an insult, seeing as I'm not up there, but down here. Oh, and I am laughing. His words would quickly be followed by a maniacal laughter. Issei growled at Gilgamesh's comment, but stopped after remembering what happened last time. A sigh escaped his lips as he tried to calm himself down. Then he saw two people rushing towards him. Great, they're probably going to ask me stupid questions. He whispered to himself before coming face to face with two of the perverted trio, Mitsuda and Motohama. Rias was at a loss of words. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Was that really Issei Hyoudou? But he was supposed to be dead. Her eyes started twitching as he yelled at the sky. Akeno, am I seeing things? Akeno didn't look as surprised, or rather, she'd hidden it well. But a chuckle soon escaped her lips after noticing her king's reaction, which only made Rias glare at her eyes promising pain. Issei pointing his middle finger at the sky. I think we're both seeing things. Rias couldn't help but to giggle quietly. But this was most certainly an unexpected development. She and her peerage had seen the park, and they could only assume the worst-case scenario. The fallen angel had not only killed him, she had toyed with him and threw his body around, breaking it piece by piece. Rias had cursed herself for not following him that day. Luckily, that wasn't the case. But something bothered her. If the fallen hadn't been the one to cause all of that destruction, then who did? Akeno. We're going to have to bring him to our club and get some answers out of him later. Akeno would only nod at this. The perverted duo pulled him away from the gates and from prying eyes before bombarding him with their own questions. Issei. Where were you? We thought you were dead. Even the teachers said you were dead. Do you know how hard it would be to find your replacement for our group? Who would we frame when we peeked on the girls' kendo club? They pushed him against a wall, expecting answers from him, but they never came. To say that Issei was furious was an understatement. They heard he was dead and were more worried about peeking than about their best friend. Issei grabbed both of their collars, lifting them into the air. This would usually be impossible with Issei's frame and his strength alone. That is, if he didn't have some help. Now listen here. Issei said as quietly as he could, his voice fearful. The next time Issei's voice got louder. You ask me something like that. He was almost yelling. I'll show you just what it means to be deady, then let go of their collars, allowing them to breathe. At first, they stared at him, fearing him after what he had just said and done before realizing just how much in the wrong they were. How could they be so emotionless? Issei. They both stared at each other before nodding, apologizing at the same time. We're sorry. Issei wasn't expecting the sudden change of heart. Had they actually apologized to him after realizing their mistake? Oh god, this was going to haunt him in his dreams. Then Gilgamesh decided to jump into the conversation. I had followers that only used me for their own gain. Every time I returned from a dangerous quest, they would act as if they cared about me. But that was not the case. You know why they actually cared about me? They cared about their own authority in my lands. If I happened to die, then they'd of course lose it all. I didn't really mind it at first, but after a while it got rather bothersome. So I thought about it. What was the easiest way to resolve this? Well, it was really simple. I gathered them all in one room, no strings attached, and then you know what happened. Issei tried to make a wild guess. You killed them all. Gilgamesh would smirk at this, not because the boy was right, but because he was becoming more of a man. No. I asked them one simple question. Do you care about your king or his wealth? Now, I allowed them all to answer first, and most of them of course said that they cared about me, while only a few were blunt enough to admit that they cared about my wealth. I respected those who did and allowed them to keep it. However, the rest of them. Well, since they cared about their precious king so much, I made them go with me on a mission to slay one of the strongest beasts. Only a handful of them survived, and those that did were gathered back in the room. Do you know what I did then? Issei thought about it before giving him a quick nod. You asked them the same question again? Gilgamesh could only smile. It seems Issei was catching on. Yes, I asked them the same question. And while some of the weaklings did say that they cared about the wealth, seeing as they thought I would send them on a dangerous mission. Others continued to say, no, exclaim that they cared about their king. And at this point, I was sure of it. I had found those who were truly loyal to me and those who were dogs that lied. Then I proceeded to kill all of those who cared about wealth, leaving alive only those who care about me, the king. Issei gave him a questioning look. And what about the ones that were being honest the first time you asked and said that they cared about your wealth more than you? Gilgamesh crossed his arms. They never lied to me, so I allowed them to lie and keep all of their wealth and influence. It doesn't matter what you do, so long as you don't lie to your king. Wow. To say that Issei was surprised would be an understatement. You do have a heart. So, what was the moral of that story? Never lie. Gilgamesh would then change the subject. By the way, I seem to have picked up on quite a few devils. In fact, this school is infested with them. School was definitely interesting today. Every teacher and student would notice Issei and stare at him for a good moment or two before walking away. Even his classroom teacher, the one that never seemed to care about anything, was surprised with this outcome, if the wide jaw was anything to go by. I mean, how could he not be? He was sure he'd have to be the one to break the terrible news to everyone, and just as he started to do so, Issei walked into the classroom, cheerful as ever. Issei enjoyed seeing people's dumbfounded expressions. However, there was one expression that bothered him. It was the expression of one Hyoudou Kiba. As soon as he'd seen Issei, he turned around and ran as fast as possible. Lord of Heroes, was that perhaps a devil? Issei asked, hoping to get Gilgamesh's response. It didn't take long for Gilgamesh to yawn before responding. Oh, so you noticed. Also, call me Gilgamesh from now on. Yeah. That bastard is way too perfect to be a human. Look at him. He's got so many girls around him and he doesn't take any of them on a date. Well, I picked the first girl I met and took her on a date. You would have also been killed by the first girl you met and took on a date if it wasn't for me. Gilgamesh would have laughed at how idiotic this boy actually was if he didn't feel sorry for him at this point. Issei only sighed and nodded his head at this. Point taken. Also, did you just allow me to call you by your name? Mongrel, if I say something, then don't make me repeat myself. If I tell you to call me by my name, then do it. No questions asked. Do we have an understanding? Yes. Issei could only nod. The way he spoke, the intensity of his words. There was no doubt about it. That man was a king. School was finally over. After a long days of work, Issei was finally ready to head home and watch some TV or do anything that would be more entertaining than just sitting in class and listening to a boring teacher. Issei wasn't stupid, no. He was the smartest boy in school. Some of the girls liked him for his intellect, while others thought of him as a massive pervert that didn't deserve to live. As Issei packed his bag and headed out, he was greeted by a small girl with white hair at the school gates. Issei could swear he saw a pair of cat ears on her head for a moment before deciding that he was just seeing things that weren't really there. All in all, this girl was giving out a weird aura. One that no human could possibly give. Gilgamesh. Issei just wanted to confirm his suspicions. Oh wow. Issei could hear claps coming from his mindscape. You found 2 devils in one day. Not bad for a human that awakened his sacred gear just yesterday. Kaneko wasn't sure what the boy was doing. First he was about to walk home by the looks of it, but then he stopped and stared directly at her. She was frozen at a moment. His eyes looked as if he was gauging her, evaluating her every move. All she heard from Riaz was to bring him back to the old school building, and at the time, she thought it would be a simple task, but not anymore. She could also smell something from him. A divine aura was enveloping his entire body, but she couldn't tell where exactly it was coming from. Oh shit, Issei. You have to distract her. She isn't just a devil. She's also a Nakamata and has probably already noticed some of my energy. Hey there, Issei waved at the small girl that was glaring at him so intensively. Why are you glaring at me? Did I do something wrong? Perhaps I peeked on you while you were changing. If that's the case, then I'm sure she didn't allow him to finish his sentence as she sent a fist flying straight into his ribs. She wanted to knock him out now and ask questions later. But the blow never made it to its destination as Issei's hand intercepted her fist, catching it with little to no effort. She was surprised beyond words. She was a rook, goddammit. Even if she hadn't put all of her strength into that, he wasn't supposed to be able to catch it. Hell, no human should have been able to catch that fist, much less stop it. Whoa, that was a powerful attack, Devil-chan. Oh shy, he cursed himself for that slip-up. He not only stopped her fist, but he also revealed the fact that he knew that she was a devil to her. Kaneko's eyes widened as far as they could before she jumped back, taking an aggressive stance. A hissing noise escaped her lips, and while it was supposed to strike terror into her foes, Issei only thought of it as a cute gesture of hers. Mongrel, I take back everything I said about you. You're the biggest idiot I've ever had the pleasure of working with. But even with all of that said, Gilgamesh couldn't help but to laugh at Issei's misfortune. How was he going to get himself out of this one, especially with all of the devils that were about to surround him? He couldn't wait to see. A female stepped out of the shadows, her crimson red hair fluttering in the wind. No, we're devils. Issei's eyes switched onto the newcomer before fast vaulting. The woman that had just revealed herself as a devil was none other than Ria's Gremory, the most beautiful girl in school, and also his secret crush. Issei was now at the Occult Research Club, located in the old school building. He was sitting on a sofa while being glared at by every single person in the room, well, other than by Akeno. She wasn't exactly glaring at him. She was looking at him as if she was in hunger and he was a juicy piece of meat. That stare of hers sent shivers down his spine, but he tried his best not to look at her, denying her of any pleasure. To say that Gilgamesh was enjoying the situation would be an understatement. He was loving this whole development if the laughter was anything to go by. Issei would curse him for finding his misfortune to be so amusing if he wasn't surrounded by a group of devils that seemed to want a piece of him in one way or looking at Akeno, the other. Issei couldn't stand all of the silence. It was nerve-wracking. Had they brought him here just to glare at him, or did they want something from him? He wasn't going to take this much longer. Standing up, he glared at Ria's, which he assumed was their leader, with equal intensity. What do you want? Devil? His voice strong, not showing any hesitation. Ria's flinched at this. She wasn't one to be taken by surprise, but the way this man talked, the way he showed no hesitation or fear towards her after hearing she was a devil. She wanted to know more about him. Hiba and Kaneko were just about to grab him by the shoulder to get him to sit back down, but Ria's waved them off before switching her view back to Issei, a much friendlier face covering her features. You said that you could explain, so please, explain. The reason why Issei wasn't even a tiny bit scared of them was because he could feel it. He could feel all of their strength, all of their power. And while their auras were powerful, nothing could compare to that monster inside of him. If all of her peerage's combined power was a drop of water, then Gilgamesh's would be an entire ocean. Issei too followed suit, stopping his glare. She wanted answers from him, but he obviously couldn't give her any. He put on a smug look, followed by a chuckle. What do you wish to know? Perhaps why the chicken crossed the road. Ria's face vaulted at this, followed by the rest of her peerage. Was he toying with her? This made a tick mark form on her forehead as she stood up, pouting at him. You know very well what I'm talking about. He did indeed know what she meant, but that pout of hers made her look so cute. He couldn't resist but to toy with her some more. Yeah, I know. Listen, it was a rainy day, so I went under the first roof I could find. And it just so happened that it was located next to the girls' changing room. So I peeked through a certain window by accident and saw you along with that girl behind me, which seems to be looking at me as if I'm some sort of toy for her to play with. Akeno would only giggle at the accusation before sliding her tongue over her lower lip. The cat that's sitting to my left, he addressed her in a way that would make it obvious that he knew that Kaneko wasn't just a devil, but also an Ekamata. Everyone in her peerage would sharpen their eyes at this, including Ria's, their glare never leaving Issei, waiting for him to finish. As I was saying before, you all started glaring at me as if I was your worst enemy. I saw all three of you in your panties that day, forgive me. I didn't think you noticed. A small blush formed on the cheeks of all three girls. Ria's didn't know what to say anymore. She was beyond pissed off. Not just her, but her entire peerage. She tried to handle this situation as professionally as she could, hell, she even tried being nice to him. But he was just taking this whole situation as some sort of joke. She even tried her best to read him, but she couldn't. He was like a closed book that couldn't be opened no matter how hard she tried. That's not what I wanted to talk to you about, however I'll act as if it didn't happen so long as you tell me how you stopped Kaneko's punch. Her voice was a mix between anger and calm. She was trying her hardest not to just yell at him and demand answers out of him. She was even considering allowing Akeno to torture him till he'd given her the answer she wanted, but that was beneath her. Who do all of these dirty devils think they're glaring at? As funny as Gilgamesh found this situation to be, it was also angering him. He was contemplating whether to come out and show them their place. Decisions. Issei stared at Rias for a moment, then stared at Kaneko, then back at Rias, his face showing no change as he did. Well, she's just a little girl. I'm sure any boy my age can stop her punch. Kaneko was furious. He not only stopped her punch, he also insulted her. Kaneko wasn't one for pride, but when he insulted her, then he also insulted her king for choosing her. So he indirectly insulted the whole peerage by calling her punch weak. Seeing as Kaneko was about to go off, Rias yelled. Kaneko. Down. Which made Kaneko freeze before leaning further into her seat and grabbing a cookie before crushing it between her fingers. After calming Kaneko, Rias switched her sights towards Issei, a snarl nearly escaping her lips as she did. Listen. You're in an area that's under my jurisdiction. It's my job to know what's happening around here, so how can I do that when you keep toying with me and the orders of my superiors? Why, I bet if one of them came to question you that you'd be too scared to think, much less answer their question. So please, while I'm in a good mood, answer my question. Issei would find the whole situation amusing. First she and her peerage were glaring at him, no doubt trying to intimidate him well other than a Keno. He honestly didn't know what she was doing. Then they were asking him questions while trying to act nice. And now they're threatening him. Issei would smile confidently before speaking as calmly as he could. You're wrong. Rias was clearly not satisfied with her answer. She was hoping to invoke some fear in him, not boost his confidence. How so? She asked, not thinking anything of it. Issei's smile turned into a smirk. Because, I know a man whose history is so great that others think of it as only a legend. His power so mighty that he can destroy everything. And if I'm not scared in his presence, then there's not a single being in the entire universe that can scare me. Rias could only jump back at this. The sheer power and confidence in his voice, she couldn't believe something like that could exist. Just who was this man that he was talking about? This man that he was thinking so highly of that he could compare him to the most powerful gods. No, comparing him to them was wrong. What he was saying is that they were beneath this man. Who is this man that you speak of? Rias asked, hoping to finally get an answer. Issei started at her for a moment, sighing. Sadly I cannot tell you. He doesn't wish his presence to be known to this world. Issei then stood up, walking towards the door. Well, if that was all Rias. Then I'll be on my way. He reached for the door handle, but felt a sharp object planted on his neck, ready to slice through. It wasn't one of Gilgamesh's swords, rather it was the sword of Gremory's knight, Kiba. Since it was his sword, it had no hope at all to even pierce his skin. His skin could only be sliced through by an plus A rank noble phantasm. But you had not yet allowed you to leave, and as far as I'm concerned you're better off dead. Rias would only fassip him at this. I'm sorry Issei, but he's right. I need you to sit back onto the sofa, we have so much to discuss. Her voice was cut off as Issei spoke. You don't know what you've done. You stupid idiot. Issei got quiet all of a sudden, not finishing his sentence. Then after a few moments, a sudden burst of laughter escaped Issei's lips. But there was something wrong about this. The voice, it was completely different from Issei's. Then the male turned his head towards Kiba, who could only widen his eyes before feeling a murderous aura. This is Kiba jumped back, sweat pouring down his forehead. He had just seen himself die a million times, over and over again in a single moment, while standing next to Issei. No. Standing next to that thing. Oh, why do you run, little chick? I was just about to have some fun with you. The murderous aura that he was exerting covered the entire room, no, the entire school. Anything that stepped inside of this aura was promised death if the being chose to kill it. And as the being turned towards Rias, she could swear that she was seeing death face to face. His crimson red eyes watching her, scanning her, piercing her. She could barely breathe. She was aware of it. If this being chose to do so, then he could kill them all within moments, not even leaving their ashes behind. She summoned all the strength she had in her to ask what may be the very last thing in her life. Who know what are you? A god. Rias was at a standstill. Should she make a run for it or stay here and hope that he won't end her just yet? Then it hit her. What was she even thinking? Running from something like this? It was suicide. She'd be dead in a millisecond. Besides, she could never abandon her peerage. Sona must have felt this aura by now. She was probably already pleading her sister to send everything they had to the human world. Yes, she just needed to hold out for some time and she'd be safe. However, holding out was easier said than done. She was shaking, unable to move. Her body was frozen in fear. She couldn't even muster up energy to speak. Was this the aura of a god? One that has seen countless battlefields. The Kendo also didn't know what to do in this situation. Just like her king, she couldn't lift a finger. That being's aura, it was so heavy that it nearly crushed her into the ground. Usually, she'd be turned on beyond all reason. But right now, she wasn't. She couldn't be. She had to get her friends and her king out of here at all costs. She tried her best to move, to try and cast a spell, but nothing happened. It was as if something had frozen her entire body and allowed her to keep her sight to view as the events unfold. Then there was Kaneko. Out of every person there, she was hit by the being's godlike aura the most. Not because she was little or weak, but because the being was suppressing most of his aura, only revealing a part of it to the other devils. But unlike the others, she could feel it. She could feel more of his aura. Around 20%, the majestic force nearly making her scream. It felt like her head was on a chopping block, ready to be chopped away. She had never felt anything like it, not even in the presence of a Satan. This made her wish that she wasn't a Nakamata, because now she knew that even if reinforcements arrived they could do nothing against this thing. Gibba was shocked. He was supposed to be the Gremory's knight. He was supposed to be able to save her no matter what the situation, or at least provide some cover for her so that she's able to escape. But now he was covering in fear. His legs shaking, his body bent down. He felt cold, which made him wrap his arms around his own chest, holding his body as tightly as he could. He could feel death's cold embrace, ready to take him to the next world. But he didn't want to die just yet, not before he got his revenge. Erg. Using all of the strength he had, he tried to move forward, and move he did. Although he didn't move forward. His body had moved one step backwards, not listening to Kiba's commands. Gilgamesh was watching all of them with disgust. These devils dared to threaten his host. It was hilarious how little backbone these devils had compared to the last ones that he met from over 1,000 years ago. You'd think that they'd become even stronger, but this. He cursed himself for having to associate himself with a god though, however it was the only way for him to actually stay hidden. Certain people in this world knew of him, and if they knew him, then they also knew how much he hated, no despised gods. By calling himself a god, he made sure none of these people would even think of it being him. Gilgamesh then locked his eyes onto Rias. Perhaps his eyes were the only indication that this was a different man. This person still had all of Issei's features, other than his eyes, which were crimson red. It took only a moment before he spoke, his voice cold and powerful. "So, little worm." His eyes sharpened. "You said that this area was under your jurisdiction, did you not?" Rias could only nod at this, unable to speak a single word. "Who gave you that right?" Gilgamesh asked, already knowing the answer that she was going to give him. It took all of the courage and pride for Rias to find her voice and speak. "My brother, the current Lucifer." Gilgamesh would laugh at this, nearly bursting into tears. That didn't make him any less scary because he wasn't exactly laughing like a normal person. He was laughing like a maniac. "Oh, sorry. Sorry. I didn't think you'd still be using the original names of those 4 weaklings, seeing as they're all long dead." The laughter hurt Rias. How could he talk this way about the 4 original great Satans? She yelled at him, not caring about the consequences. "How dare you? They were the strongest of our race." Rias was about to continue, but was cut off as Gilgamesh spoke. "Strongest? But didn't all 4 of them die in the Great War?" Rias would nod once more. "Yes, they all died." Fighty Gilgamesh cut her off once more. "Oh. So they did die. Perhaps it was because they were a weak bunch. If they were strong enough, then they wouldn't die no matter who they faced. Or well, I could be wrong when I say that, seeing as they did indeed fight someone of unimaginable power." Rias would widen her eyes at this. "You talk as if you've been there." Gilgamesh would only smirk at this, revealing the sharp teeth that were hidden behind his lips. "Maybe I was. Now let me ask you another question. Who gave your brother the right to put this area under yours, his or anyone's jurisdiction?" Her face was priceless. She was at a loss of words. What was this god asking her? Didn't he hear her when she had told him that her brother was Lucifer? Or was he perhaps acting stupid? "My brother has that right. It comes with his title and his power." Gilgamesh's smirk would only widen at this. "Is that so? Well, mongrel, by your logic, I would be able to kill you now and get away with it if my title as a god or my power is anything to go by. Do you wish to test it out?" Rias would stare at his eyes, fear showing on her face. Was he actually planning on killing her right now? Even after knowing that her brother will not sit silently if he did? She almost wanted to say yes, she wanted to test this man. She wanted to see if he'd do it. But a large part of her was screaming at her to say no. That part of her knew that this man was crazy enough to end her on the spot. So, she looked down, unable to look the being in the eyes as her pride just got crushed. "No. Well, look at that. Not only are you beautiful, you're also smart enough to let go of your pride for your survival," he then continued with a whisper, making sure that only Kaneko was able to hear it. "Unlike those 4 Satans that I had the pleasure of murdering." He flared his aura up at Kaneko, making her pass out on the spot. Kaneko couldn't take much more of this. The being's strong voice, his almighty aura. It was the most horrifying experience in her life. And then hearing the being's last words only made the Nico gasp in fear. She had no doubts that if this man planned to do so, he could end the entire world, which was only proven to her as he raised his aura up, making her scream before she lost all consciousness. This of course horrified everyone in the room, other than Gilgamesh of course. They all tried their best to move and to help poor Kaneko, but their bodies betrayed them, still frozen in fear. Riaz was the first to speak. "What did you do to Kaneko?" The smirk which was on Gilgamesh's face only grew darker. His voice was a mix between playful and serious. "I killed her." This made Riaz lose all the control she had over herself. She was mad, no, not mad, she was furious. Had he actually dared to kill one of her peerage? She was no longer thinking straight, overtaken by rage. You'll pay for this with your life." She then lifted her hand into the air before forming a sphere made entirely out of her power of destruction. The sphere grew in size as time passed, but there was something wrong here. The male had not even tried to stop her, no, it was as if he didn't even care what she did. Was he underestimating her? That pissed her off even further. She put everything she had into the sphere before throwing it with all her might at him. Gilgamesh would only give a single glance to the sphere, his sight never leaving Riaz. And even as the sphere ran into him and covered his entire body, his smirk never faded. Then the sphere exploded, leaving a cloud of smoke around the area, making it unclear if it had done its job and destroyed him. The entire peerage started cheering, thinking that their king had done the impossible and killed the invincible god that was standing in front of them moments ago. But Riaz wasn't so sure. Why had he just stood there? He didn't even try to defend himself. It was as if he knew that the sphere could do nothing to him, and her assumptions were proven right as she saw a figure as the smoke slowly cleared. What she saw made her drop on her knees and glare at him as hard as she could. Not only had he survived her attack, he did it without getting a single scratch on his part. Is that the best you can do? His eyes scanned the area, noticing Kiba's surprised face. He found it amusing to crush something people believed in. And the face he'd just seen, well, it was priceless. Then there was Akeno. She was winking at him. This made him question her kinks. "Do you find it hot? How I could annihilate everyone in this room in one instant?" Akeno would only blush at this, turning her face to the side. She couldn't help but to be turned on by watching this man, especially after what he had just done. "Maybe I wouldn't be half as turned on if my friend was dead though. Thank you for not killing her." Riaz would then realize that Kaneko wasn't actually dead. She was just unconscious. Ugh, she was cursing herself. Why hadn't she just confirmed whether Kaneko was dead or not before attacking the supposed god? She was sure of it now. The Grim Reaper was here to take her soul, and he just needed to touch her to do it. Gilgamesh would nod at Akeno before turning his face towards Riaz, the smirk no longer on his features. "I won't kill you. Not yet at least. Issei would never forgive me if I did. However, I'll tell you one thing. This planet we call Earth. It doesn't belong to you or the other devils. It doesn't belong to the angels, there's a reason why I didn't add God there. It doesn't belong to fallen angels either. This land, this area belongs to the humans. And there's a human in this world that this planet belongs to the most, since he made this planet his own a long time ago." And with that, Gilgamesh left the room, leaving a very stunned Riaz behind. Gilgamesh slowly made his way out of the school building, after giving Riaz and the rest of her peerage the scare of their lives other than Akeno. She seems to have gotten the orgasm of her life. Usually, he'd be happy about all of this. But he gave them a little too much information to work with. It was only a matter of time before they figured out who he was. He and Issei would have their hands full in the future, escaping all of these races that were out to get them or trying to make them join their faction. Stopping near the gates, he yelled curses. To no one in particular. He considered going back and ending all of their lives. But before he could, a huge spike of energy could be felt all around the school grounds, making Gilgamesh stare out in the open field. Two teleportation circles could be seen as they slowly formed on the ground, each having a different symbol, probably marking the family that the teleportation circle belonged to. Wonderful reinforcements, now I can't end them without starting another great war. Out of the left circle stepped out a handsome young man that looked to be in his early 20s. His crimson red hair flowed down to his shoulders, his blue-green eyes scanned the area around him. He looked exactly like a male version of Riaz. But there was a huge difference between this man and Riaz. This man was powerful, perhaps as powerful as one of the 4 Satans that Gilgamesh had faced back in the past. However, even with all of that power, he was nothing more than a toy for Gilgamesh to play with as he pleased. Out of the right circle stepped out a child, no, perhaps calling her a child was wrong with those breasts of hers. Out of the right circle stepped out a beautiful young girl with long black hair tied in twin tails. She may have given off the appearance of a child, but she was no doubt powerful. Not as powerful as the man to his left, but powerful enough to gain Gilgamesh's interest, which was saying a lot. He had given them a quick glance, acknowledging their existence before turning around and walking towards the gates uncaringly. This however made one of the figures flare its aura at him, which he ignored as he continued to walk. Serziches stared at the young man in front of him. It appeared as if he was responsible for all the bloodthirsty aura around the school, but that couldn't be. The boy seemed human. How could a human produce such a murderous aura? Not even he, who has lived for so long and fought so many battles, could even produce something close to this. There must have been more to him than meets the eye. Then there was Serafal. She was staring at the man with the same amount of amazement as Serziches and with a tiny bit of interest. Just what was this thing in front of them? She had never feared anyone in her life, especially not a human, yet. She felt as if this man could end even her if he pleased to do so. The man then turned around, not seeming to care that the two of them had showed up and started to walk away. This would usually agitate both of them. How dare he ignore their presence? But they could feel it. This man's power, even if it felt human, was beyond their own. They couldn't tell the exact difference in the power between them. Maybe he was 2 times as powerful as them, maybe 3 times and maybe 1,000 times. There was no sure way of knowing without fighting the man. Serziches flared his aura up by instinct. As much as he didn't want to engage this man, he had no choice. He had to get some answers from him. What if he had already killed his precious sister? He would never forgive himself for not killing this man where he stands. But the man didn't seem to care about Serziches' aura, hell he didn't even seem to flinch or stop and take a look back. Gilgamesh stopped just as he was about to leave, not turning his head back. He had already given the devils multiple clues, so why not give them another one? I'm guessing by your red hair that the mongrel is your sister. Don't worry, little weakling. Your sister is safe for now. But the next time someone tries to order me on my own planet, not even the strongest beings in existence will be able to save that person from my wrath. His voice was cold and deadly, leaving zero room for questions. Serziches would widen his eyes at this statement. What did he mean by his own planet, and did he just call him a super devil weak? He was going to have to ask Riaz about their encounter with this man. A sigh escaped his lips. Thank God his sister was safe. But thinking about, if he engaged this man, could he really win? Even with the assistance of Serafal, what were their chances of winning the man in front of them? He'd hate to say it, but just looking at the man was making even him shiver a tiny bit in fear. Right now. He could safely assume that his chances of winning the man were 0% at best. Serafal was about to stop the man, but Serziches held a hand in front of her, stopping her from doing anything foolish. Don't attack him. Serziches ordered in a serious tone. Serafal would stare at Serziches in disbelief. He attacked your sister, or at least scared her beyond all reason with that bloodthirst of his. He had also made some of Sona's peerage members faint. We can't let him get away with this. Not without teaching him a serious lesson. She exclaimed, trying to get her point over to Serziches. She was downright furious. Why didn't Serziches already attack the man in front of them? Could it be that he was scared? But there were 2 of them. How could they not win? Serziches would nod at all of this before giving his own point over to her. It's not we who are allowing him to get away, Serziches gulped. It's he who's allowing us to get away. Serafal, what if I told you that we've just met the Supreme Being? Serafal would gasp at this, stepping back a bit. You mean the one whose power is? Serziches would finish her sentence. Rivaled by no one, not even by the 2 strongest dragons, or 666 from the novel. I'm still not quite sure if it's him though. The only thing we know about this person is that he has immense power and claims that the planet belongs to him. He could just be one of those arrogant gods that don't know their place. However, if this person is indeed Gilgamesh, then we might have a problem. He alone has the right to rule this world. And here's the problem. He alone also has the right to remove anything from existence that he deems unworthy. So we could one day see a continent being blown up from the face of the earth if he decides to do so. Serafal couldn't help but to widen her eyes as she heard the name Gilgamesh. He was a tale, a legend, a ruler like no other. A king among kings, said to have collected every treasure in the world. He was also the one responsible for ending the Great War. She couldn't believe that someone so great was standing in front of them without her realizing it. And to think that she was about to attack him. She had no doubts that Serziches saved her life, and for that, she would be forever grateful. I've never heard of him being more powerful than the 2 strongest dragons. Are you sure about that? She would ask, wanting a confirmation on that. Serziches would rub the back of his head as he started to think. Then an idea hit him. Why not tell her about the story that he heard from the first Baal? How about I tell you a story that I heard a long time ago? It's a story about Office, the infinite dragon god, and how she follows a certain human that catched her interest. She was hoping to make him her mate because the power he was giving out was so amazing, so incredible that the world around him would crumble if he didn't suppress it. At the time, she wasn't nearly as powerful as she is now. Do you know what gave her the motivation to train, even if she was considered one of the strongest beings? Serapho would think about it but was unable to find the answer. She asked. What? Well, it was one line from her supposed mate. Why would I want a weak little hatchling as my lover? It ticked her off that someone would call her weak. So she attacked him just as you would have now, hoping to prove him wrong, hoping to make him submit to her. But that was a mistake. She had never been so overpowered in her life. It took just one sword to stop her in her tracks. And get this, it was one of the weaker swords he had. She had been so defeated, so utterly ashamed, that she would cry for days as her body slowly regenerated. Her cries could be heard all over the world. It sounded like a giant thunderstorm that would never stop. Then as it finally stopped and she was about to stand, Gilgamesh came back and offered her a hand. The hand, even if it seemed like a good gesture of sorts, was a sign of pity. He pitied the dragon. Pitied her for how she was alone. She cried for such a long time and nobody helped her or comforted her. And then he made a promise with her. If you get stronger and still have feelings for me, then find me again. I might consider your feeling then. And that one sentence alone made her rise in power so much that she nearly doubled if not tripled her strength. Now she's still searching for him, in hopes of finding him. And if that was him, well, let's just say that things are about to get interesting. Somewhere in the dimensional gap. The feminine wood could be heard coming from the darkness. I have finally found you, my one and only king. The red dragon next to her could only sigh, frustrated at this development. So he has returned. Damn him and that power of his. Why does a lousy human get to be more powerful than me? At the park. Gilgamesh would sneeze as he looked up at the sky. There were quite a few mongrels talking about me by the looks of it. When did I get so fucking popular? He would then stop in his tracks, feeling an energy attack of some sorts heading his way. He wouldn't usually care enough to deflect it in any way, since it would just bounce off his body, but right now he was in a very foul mood. He turned around, grabbed the spear and crushed it between his fingers, as if it was nothing. To say that the fallen angel was surprised was an understatement. Raynare had told him that she had finished her job and killed the target. She was usually like that. A cold, merciless killer that didn't care about others. So seeing the boy alive was a surprise. He also couldn't feel the boy's aura, which was going to be his own downfall. And by throwing the spear at him, he signed his own death warrant. He froze as he watched the boy crush the spear. How was it even possible for him to catch the spear, much less crush it? But before he could say or do anything, he felt pain rushing from every part of his body. And as he looked down, he saw that multiple weapons have already pierced into his body, stabbing him from every possible side. This is what happens when you attack the king, trash. The only thing that the fallen would do was cough up blood before falling down on the ground, his body already dead. Gilgamesh would just sigh as he felt that the mongrel and her peerage were on their way towards the scene, making him walk away and leave the cleanup to the shitty devils. This was one way of getting back at her for pissing him off so much today. He'd laugh before disappearing in the distance. Issei had woken up the next day without a care in the world. His body was well rested, not at all tired from all the events that had occurred just yesterday. That is until he opened his eyes. He remembered everything and what he saw terrified him beyond all reason. He had seen every single thing that Gilgamesh had done while he was in his body, but there was one thing that stood out. He saw a bloody man with multiple cuts, his body full of holes and his face frozen in fear. The man appeared to be dead on the floor and before him stood Issei. No, thinking it was himself was wrong. That was Gilgamesh. And he appeared to be laughing and enjoying the scene. A few days ago, Issei would throw up if he had seen a scene similar to that one. But right now, he didn't care, he couldn't care. He knew his body, along with his personality, was changing, and it scared him more than he could possibly imagine. A smirk was slowly forming on his lips as he thought more about the man that he had seen. Calling him a man was wrong. He was a dirty villain that tried to backstab him. But karma was a bitch to him, and he was the one who got backstabbed along with being stabbed through every part in his body. The hunter became the hunted. Issei whispered as he tried to sit up, but then he realized something. His arms, he couldn't move them, and neither could he move his legs. Oh great, my body is stuck. He felt something soft on his hand, making him reconsider his previous assumption. It was as if something was holding him down on both sides, clamping his arms and legs in place. Gilgamesh! Issei yelled out, trying to get the king's attention, but there was no response for some time until a snicker escaped the king's lips. What is it, servant? Gilgamesh would try his best not to laugh at the boy's predicament as he already knew what was going on, but he was failing miserably. The hell is going on here? Why can't I move? He tried to wiggle his arms out of whatever was holding them so tightly, but he couldn't. It was as if his arms were chained to the bed on both sides. Well, I'd tell you, but where would be the fun in that? Gilgamesh would burst into a full-on, maniacal laughter, making Issei wish he could hold his hands over his ears, even while knowing it would do nothing to stop that horrible sound. Issei would then try a more reasonable approach. Oh noble king. Would you please share your divine knowledge with this petty servant and tell him why he cannot move? Gilgamesh's tone would turn into a more serious one. Well, since you're so hopeless, I'll tell you. A devilish smirk would form on his lips. Not. Issei growled at this. How dare that dirty king not tell him what he wanted to know. Fine, he was going to figure it out by himself. He didn't need that stupid bastard's help anyway. He would first focus on his right arm. It seemed to be stuck between what felt to be two soft pillows. But they were warm. Perhaps Gilgamesh was playing a trick on him. He moved his elbow forwards and backwards, grinding along the edges of the soft pillows. But then he froze, hearing something that sounded much like a moan. He did the same with his left arm and he heard it again, this time confirming his suspicions. That was definitely a moan. Issei had finally realized it, the situation he was in. He wasn't alone in his bed. There were people here with him, 2 women, if he wasn't mistaken. One was on his left while the other was on his right side, holding him. In the soft pillows he felt well those were. He opened his jaws before grabbing the bed sheets with his teeth, throwing them to the side, and the sight that was revealed to him, well, let's just say that he was going to remember it for the rest of his life. On his right side sleeping was Rhea's Gremory. The redhead that he had argued with just yesterday and also the woman he absolutely and utterly adored. Knowing she was a devil wasn't going to change that. Issei knew nothing about devils, so he couldn't really judge whether they were good or bad people. And of course, he couldn't trust stories that he had heard about devils. Stories were stories, but this was a real, naked devil. And by naked I mean naked. She wore no clothing, not even panties. This was heaven for Issei. His right hand would start to sweat after realizing that he had been touching her body for God knows how long. Then on his left was a woman that he had never seen before. No, calling her a woman wouldn't do. She was a young girl with beautiful black hair. If Issei was seen with her, then people might even consider him to be a pedophile of sorts. But unlike Rhea's, she wasn't asleep. She was wide awake, staring at him with her gray eyes. She seemed to be evaluating him, measuring his power. She was also naked, having no clothing whatsoever covering her body. Issei would blush as his eyes trailed lower along her body, making the girl smirk. But something felt wrong. The pressure that the young girl was giving out was insane. It was almost as powerful as the pressure that Gilgamesh himself would be able to exert. Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh would think for a moment. Where had he felt this power before? It was familiar to him, but also alien. Servant, whatever you do, don't piss that little girl off. She's too powerful for you or anyone other than me to handle. She could easily wipe out this entire house with a flick of her finger. Issei didn't fear her, or at least he was trying his best to hide any fear. He said it himself. If Gilgamesh didn't scare him, then no one in the whole universe would be able to scare him. And that was an accurate statement, seeing as he had the soul of the strongest being within him. So. What's your name? He asked a girl, quietly enough not to wake Rhea's up. The black-haired girl would only stare at him, the smirk growing wider as she did. Why don't you ask that man inside of you? He knows me quite well. He belongs to me as I belong to him. Her eyes stared at Issei seductively. Gil, care to explain? Issei asked, trying to get some sort of confirmation out of Gilgamesh, but he seemed quiet. Was he hiding? The supreme king. The true king. Hiding from a little girl. Just what could she have done to him to make him hide from her? We met while I was still alive. She was attracted to me because of my power alone. You see, she's a dragon. And not just any dragon. She's the most powerful dragon along with that great red hatchling. Dragons are creatures of incredible power, and as such, they're also attracted to power, which is the reason why she wanted me as her mate. But I refused her at first, so we fought, and as you might have imagined, it was no contest. I could rival her easily in brute force, not even needing any of my weapons for the fight, but I decided to give her the honor of facing one of my weaker swords. Oh, and the only reason why I'm calling the sword weak is because I'm comparing it to the other weapons in my vault. But make no mistake, it was one of the most powerful weapons you'd see in your life. It had the power to slice mountains in half with just one swing. You still haven't told me her name or why you belong to her. I'm getting to that, now shut up. So she lost and cried like a pathetic whelp. The crying was so loud that I considered killing her multiple times. But then, she had finally stopped, which made me curious. Had someone finally found her and ended her life? Or maybe one of her allies came there after hearing her cries and tried to cheer her up. But as I came there, she was alone. Her bloodshot eyes stared at the sky, the only thing I saw in her was anger. She wanted me, but she couldn't have me. I knew she was going to keep challenging me, so I made her an offer, one that she couldn't refuse. Get stronger and find me again. I might consider your feelings then. She agreed to this offer of mine, and I gave her a handshake of sorts to solidify our agreement. And the way I see it now. She was able to get a lot stronger than last time. I might have to actually consider her feelings now. Fuck you, office. Issei would stare at the girl for a moment. He was quietly listening to Gilgamesh's story while ignoring her for the past minute. He had no doubt she was pissed if the small pout on her features was anything to go by. Is your name Office by any chance? The girl's eyes would widen after hearing her name being called by the boy next to her. She had no doubts about it. The king's soul was inside of his body. Bring Gilgamesh out right now, she said, pretty eager to see the man again. I can't. Issei stared down, unable to look the girl in the eyes. He told me that he doesn't wish to speak with you. You're still too weak for him. Still too weak. Her arm stretched out in a blur as her hand landed on Issei's neck, ready to snap it in half. Issei couldn't keep up with her speed. She was too fast for him to even realize what was going on before feeling her cold touch on his neck. Gilgamesh, you're going to come out now or this boy won't live to see tomorrow. Her words were cold. She wasn't going to let him postpone their meeting. She was going to talk with him now, even if she had to torture the boy to do it. Issei wasn't scared. He knew that he could trust the king to keep his body from harm, couldn't he? It would just take a second for him to take control of his body and make this dragon bend to his will. But something was wrong. He wasn't losing control over his body. My king. Would you please help me out here? She wants you, so go out and meet with her. Well, I would, but I kind of don't feel like it. Gilgamesh's words would come out lazily. He didn't wish to deal with the dragon at the moment. But she'll snap my neck. Issei tried to pull his left arm out of her grip but couldn't. She was too powerful. He could feel her fingers digging into his arm, nearly crushing his bones as they did. It was painful, but he didn't scream. His pride wouldn't allow him to. Gilgamesh would be proud of him. Then Issei went quiet for a moment before a golden aura covered his entire body. This would surprise Office as the arm she was holding grew in size, becoming more muscular. She tried to dig her fingers into the skin, but with no luck. The muscles were well refined and powerful, making her fingers bounce right off. The smirk on her features turned into a grin as her eyes quickly darted towards the male's face. It was just as she remembered it. That face full of confidence. Those crimson red eyes that held so much authority. And that luscious blonde hair. She was madly blushing as she pulled forward, giving the king a kiss on the cheek. I have waited for you a long time, my love. Riaz was awake the entire time. She just didn't dare to speak or even move. Just what was she thinking coming to this man's house? Sure, she found Issei to be attractive after their little talk, impressed that a human had shown no fear in her presence. Hell, he made her lose her cool after refusing to answer her questions multiple times. And then the moment Kiba pointed a sword at his neck, she couldn't describe how she felt. The power that overflowed the room made her fear him and love him at the same time. The being that she saw that day was powerful enough to end her if she could get him to join her side. But something bothered her. Her brother had visited her after the whole ordeal and told her about this man controlling Issei's body and how he isn't a god but a being that is considered to be without an equal. Could it be possible that someone like this existed without her knowing? Flashback. Serziches stormed through the old school building, rushing to see if his little sister was safe and sound. He sighed in relief as he saw her sitting on her table, gasping as if she had seen a ghost. My dear Riaz, are you alright? He jumped forward, hugging his sister as hard as he could, making her gasp for air. Riaz looked up, definitely surprised that her brother was here. She wasn't expecting him to come personally to her rescue. Akeno would smirk at this, knowing that her brother will find it was to embrace his sweet little sister. Fiba would only smile, knowing that the threat is finally gone and that he'll probably hear something hilarious. And Kaneko, she was still knocked out. Riaz would then speak, stuttering as she did. Brother. What are you doing here? I knew Sonda was going to call someone, but for you to personally come here, you didn't have to. Serziches would place his index finger onto her mouth, silencing her. He knew that she was scared beyond reason. She had sweat leaking out of her forehead and he could see that she was crying moments ago. My dear sister. I will always come to your rescue. Remember the time when you were in the bath and you thought that the rubber ducky was actually some sort of monster that would eat your soul? Akeno would only giggle in the background, followed by a sound of laughter coming from Kiba. Remember how he was silenced as Riaz slammed her fist into his gut, her eyes twitching. Riaz would then give him a glare that promised pain if he didn't cooperate. No more embarrassing stories. Now tell me, did you meet the man that was here moments ago? Serziches would give her a serious look. This surprised Riaz. He was usually one to joke around, even in these sort of circumstances. Him having that look proves that something bad might have happened. Yes, he answered. I know. We met him, me and Seraphil. This would make Riaz widen her eyes. 2 of the 4 great Satans had shown up in the human world. Were they crazy? Riaz, what had this man told you? Riaz would give him a thoughtful look as she started to think. Well, he said many things. Some of them being rather preposterous. But I'm sure that he wasn't lying about him being a god. The super devil would nod, gesturing her to continue. He also mentioned the devils don't rule this planet. Neither do the angels or the fallen angels. He said that this planet belongs to humans. Can you believe it? Oh, and the last part was the best. He didn't say the name, but he did say that this planet belongs to a certain human. That's all Surziches needed to know before coming to a conclusion. Riaz, the person that you met was not a god. Riaz would then give him a questioning look before slamming her hands into the table. Then what? He's just some power-hungry human that somehow obtained insane power. Oh, that reminds me. What did you do to the man? Surziches would place his right hand onto the back of his head, rubbing it softly, his eyes switching their view towards the ceiling. Well, we kind of let him be. What, he attacked me and my peerage. Just look at Kaneko, she's unconscious. She pointed her finger at Kaneko. She was still sitting down on the sofa, completely knocked out. Find him and bring him to justice. But don't kill him. I want him alive. She didn't just say that because she felt merciful. She wanted this man to see what she was capable of, or what the devils were capable of. Then she wanted to turn him into her servant, and then she wanted to be embraced by him, or well, by both of them. The Keno decided to join in this conversation. Wasn't Issei getting ready to leave when one of us attacked him? Her eyes slowly trailed towards Kiba, who only gulped. And then there's the fact that you used your power of destruction on him. Riaz Surziches would gulp down. You did what? He couldn't believe it. She was still alive after attempting something like that. Thank God the king was merciful. Well, I put all of my power into it and he just took it head on without moving or blocking it. The strangest thing was that he didn't seem to take any damage at all. She was angry just remembering it. How could he have ignored an attack so powerful? An attack in which she poured all of her body and soul. Surziches would only sigh at this, his hand patting his sister's head. Listen, Riaz, what I'm about to tell you can't leave this room. His eyes glanced at the members of her peerage before they both nodded. This person that you met. He was no god, no, he was someone much more powerful. Tell me, Riaz, have you ever heard of the name Gilgamesh? Riaz would think for a moment or two before replying. Isn't there some sort of heroic story about him? You talk as if he was real. Surziches would nod at this. He's quite real. Everything that he had done was no story, Riaz. The story itself has a few flaws in it. Like the part about the plant of immortality. The plant was never taken from him. He just decided not to take it because he wanted to remain completely human until the end, even if he was half god. Then the gods that betrayed him and killed his best friend. He didn't sit quietly after they did it. He had made them pay, murdering every single one of them in cold blood. He had single-handedly destroyed a whole religion in one night. And most of these gods would go evenly in a fight with me. But that's impossible. How is that man still alive then? He should have died around 5,000 years ago. Riaz was shocked. She hadn't expected that such a legendary figure was in front of her. I'm getting to that. And now to answer your previous question. It's not that I allowed him to escape, it's that I couldn't stop him, not even with Serafal there. If he chose to do so, then he could have probably ended us there within moments. Surziches knew his words were hard to believe for the young devils, considering that he's the most powerful devil out there. But it was the truth. Had Gilgamesh decided to do so, he could have ended their lives and there was nothing they could do about it. Everyone in the room was stunned. Had they heard him right? Did he really say that the being that stood in front of them was more powerful than the super devil himself, the leader of the devil race? And Surziches continued. As he had told you before. This planet does indeed belong to him, it's his garden as he calls it. There's not a single being in the whole universe that can say otherwise. Not even the strongest existence or Great Red would be able to put up much of a fight against him. And do you know what's funny? Surziches would chuckle, waiting for Riaz to reply. Riaz couldn't think anymore. The man that stood in front of them moments ago was the most powerful being in existence. And she just blindly attacked him like that. She was going to have to apologize to him, no matter what. She didn't want him to end her one day out of pure boredom. Then she realized she still hadn't answered her brother. What's funny? Surziches sighed as he sat down on the sofa. He did indeed die, but his soul was so mighty, so powerful that it materialized itself as soon as he did. He couldn't go to heaven or hell. He couldn't be reborn or erased from existence. Gilgamesh defied death itself. He created a new life for himself with his power alone. The body he wields is fake and real at the same time. It has the exact same properties as a real body would, other than the fact that he can destroy it and recreate it as many times as he'd want to. So Riaz, if we went into a war with this person, if every race in the world went into a war with this person, we still wouldn't be able to win. His body is eternal. It cannot be destroyed since his power itself would be able to block anything we throw at him, but even if we got through his power and destroyed his body somehow, he'd just be able to create a new one, over and over again. As many times as he'd want. So please, don't get on his bad side, or we'd all be fighting a war we couldn't hope to win. Riaz was at a loss of words. To think that something like this existed and that she didn't know about it. But he was inside another man's body. How come? Serzichas turned his head towards Riaz, his voice strong and serious. He likes to copy sacred gears. According to my information source, he had only allowed one person in all of history to use his power. This Issei person is the second one. The gear's name is World Breaker. And just to give you a proper comparison to other Longices, let's just say that the true Longice is a leaf compared to the World Breaker, which is like a million legendary swords. Riaz was shaking. Was she hearing things right? She held her hands over her ears, screaming. There was a being this scary in the world and she had even met it. She knew that the meeting was a near-death experience, or that's how she felt at the very least. Then she felt a huge spike of murderous aura. She could tell it was coming from the park, making her leave her brother and rush towards the area along with her peerage, other than Kaneko. She left her in her brother's care. She finally arrived at the park and what she saw horrified her. There, bloody and butchered on the floor was the corpse of a fallen angel. He looked as if he was slaughtered by an entire army. And that face filled with fear that he had moments before he died. She could safely say that he couldn't even scream as he died. Kiba, Akeno, let's clean this up. Then I have to meet a certain someone. Flashback. Feeling Issei's arm rub along her soft breasts made Riaz moan, but she had heard another moan next to her moments after. Was there somebody there with the two of them? But how could that be? She couldn't even feel a presence other than the two of them. Then she heard a voice which horrified her. It was cold and deadly. She could feel the being's aura slowly making itself known to her. It was almost impossible to tell how strong this other being was. She soon heard the being as it threatened to say, making her squeezed her hands into fists. How dare she threaten my dear Issei, but that's office, isn't it? She was about to retaliate when she felt a familiar aura overtaking the whole room. There was no mistake about it. He had shown finally made his presence known. The light disappeared, making the changes to his body quite visible. The difference between Issei's and Gilgamesh's body was enormous. From the build to the height to the hair, everything was different. Gilgamesh waited, his eyes trailing along Office, watching her as she made her move. Feeling her lips crash into his cheek made a chuckle of sorts escape his lips. Oh, what's this? 5,000 years and you already want me so badly? Come now, little hatchling. I'm sure you got better things to do than to chase after me. Office would glare at him. You still dare to call me a hatchling? Even after I've gained all this power for you? She increased the aura in the room, making Riaz open her eyes and jump off the bed, crashing her back against the wall. Gilgamesh would place his palm onto his forehead, doing a facepalm of sorts before releasing a bit of his own aura which overshadowed hers completely. But unlike her aura, Riaz couldn't feel his aura, making her calm down a tiny bit. Office, however, wasn't calm. She was cute, intimidated by his aura, making drops of sweat fall down her forehead. Your strength is still that of a little hatchling. I find it funny that people call you the strongest existence. However, while your power is little compared to mine, I must say that you've impressed me. Not everyone can stand my aura like that. In fact, the only person that was able to stand the full force of my aura was my best friend, Enkidu. Care to test it out? If you're able to stand after facing the strongest aura in existence or not. Office nodded, and as she did she felt the aura increase more and more. She felt as if her body was going to get ripped apart. A silent scream escaped her lips. The aura kept getting larger and larger. She was doing her best to stay sane, clenching her teeth. She would have already fallen down on the ground if she wasn't laying in bed right now. Then the aura made her breathing harder, followed by her body slowly losing consciousness. And then it stopped just as she was about to lose consciousness. The aura stopped making itself known to her. This made her sit up and stare at him angrily. Why did you stop? Gilgamesh would smirk at this, crossing his arms over his chest. I didn't stop exerting my aura. It's just that you're too weak to feel any more of my aura now that it is past the level of gods. Office would pout at this, her head red as a tomato with steam coming out of it. There was no doubt in Gilgamesh's mind that she was angry to hear this. So what? You're still not going to take me as your match? She didn't get to finish her sentence as Gilgamesh jumped in. I never said that. You're one of the few people in this world that I'd consider taking as my lovers. This brought a smile onto her face, followed by a deadly glare. She wasn't glaring at Gilgamesh anymore, rather she was now glaring at Riaz. How dare she come in his bed? A weak little devil like her. Should she just end her? Before she could do anything, Gilgamesh held out his arm, stopping Office from any sort of approach that she might have made towards Riaz. That mongrel is not here for me, but for Issei, isn't that right, mongrel? Riaz would nod her head at this, making Office calm down a bit. So, how about I leave you with Issei while me and Office go somewhere else to discuss certain stuff? Riaz would drop her jaw at this. You can do that. You can leave his body as you please. She was hopeful. She wanted some alone time with Issei. Gilgamesh would only laugh at this, followed by a nod. Of course mongrel, I can do anything. And now, witness my power. He moved his arm up, pointing his index finger towards the ceiling. Balance breaker number 1. The king enters his garden once more. After saying these words, a powerful energy started to leave Issei's body, Gilgamesh's form slowly fading away, leaving Issei as the one standing at the spot. The energy created particles of golden light that slowly grouped together and combined before forming into the shape of a body. The light then slowly started to break as if it was glass, revealing body parts one by one. First were the legs. Then were the arms. Then was the body and then the head. The person that the light created was Gilgamesh in the flesh. Issei was the first to say something. Hey Gil, looking good. However, I'm better looking. This made him question his intelligence. Did I really just say that? Oh god, he's going to kill me. Gilgamesh would sharpen his crimson red eyes at this, staring at Issei for a moment or two, a chuckle soon escaping his lips. Not bad Issei, you're growing up to be a fine king. However, he disappeared in a blur of golden light, appearing instantaneously behind Issei. The next time you say something like that I'm going to rip you limb from limb. End of the movie. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.